Facing elimination on Friday night, the Miami Heat limped into Game 6 needing a miracle. Well, they got one, and his name was Jimmy Butler. Battling injury, criticism, and tough Celtics defense, Butler rose to the challenge on Friday, putting up historic performances that was absolutely breathtaking. We'll talk about Jimmy on today's edition of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, Heat Nation. It's a Saturday morning edition of Locked On Heat, your daily podcast covering all things Miami Heat. However, you may be listening or watching on YouTube, on Odyssey, or on your favorite podcast app. Thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm David Ramil, and with me, as always, from New York, is my co-host, Wes Goldberg. This was the game that Miami was always capable of. Why so many of you have believed in them from day one, and while so many others have written them off after struggling for two straight games due to injury, execution, and a tough Celtics defense that has given them nightmares, the Heat went into Game 6 doubted by almost everyone. The Celtics were at full strength. The Heat were limping and minus Tyler Hero, but Miami controlled the game early on with Jimmy Butler putting up big shot after big shot, getting contributions from the rest of the starting lineup. Miami entered the fourth quarter up 7 with Jimmy already notching 30 points, but the Celtics stormed back just like they have all series long, with backup point guard Derek White leading the way. And with 5 minutes left, the game tied at 94. A three-pointer by White gave them the lead, and the momentum at home seemingly in their favor. Not so fast. The next 4.5 minutes would be a masterclass of what makes this Heat team so damn good and so special. A three-point response from Kyle Lowry, tough team defense led by PJ Tucker and Bam Adebayo, the unheralded heroes of the night, and bucket after bucket from Jimmy, who added 17 points in the fourth quarter, having played the entire second half to lead all scorers with 47, a career playoff high, to cap off a historic legacy-defining performance, and most importantly, a 111-103 win to take the series back to 3 apiece and head back to Miami for a chance at history and a trip to the NBA Finals. Wes, Jimmy Butler's performance on Saturday ranks where among the greatest individual games in Miami Heat history?
It's a great question, and it is the sort of performance that deserves that conversation. And I was giving this a lot of thought last night and this morning, but before we even get to that, to me, like, great performances have to have sort of an iconic sort of flashbulb moment, right? And there's so many to choose from this Jimmy Butler thing, and everything that you're talking about him playing that entire second half, all that stuff. It's just incredible. This was a guy who was completely broken. His body was broken. He was done. I said on this show, he was done. The Heat were done after Game 5 and they lost. And Jimmy Butler just, I don't know what happened over the last 2 days. He got a phone call from Dwayne Wade, apparently, who told him to go, add to your legacy, which is just like a really cool thing that happened. He went through really intensive treatment over the last, 36 hours, whatever it was, before going to Boston. And he just got out there and he just looked completely different than he did over the last basically 2.5 games ever since he couldn't play the second half of Game 3 there. So just a miraculous comeback just from Jimmy Butler by himself, and an incredible performance.
Even sustaining injury in the fourth quarter. He rolled his ankle. He stepped on Al Horford's foot as he was driving to the rim, and it looked like he was done. On top of all the injury he's already battling already, to add to it, and you think to yourself he's done. Well, he wasn't quite yet done. He added another 7 or 8 points after that incident to add to his ever-increasing total. Just incredible. But you were saying.
And that turnaround jumper that he hit from 20 feet out with 44 seconds left over Marcus Smart, okay? That to me was that's the moment. That's Kawhi's, forever, off the rim jumper from the corner.
Jimmy was on the
Ray
receiving
Allen.
end of that.
Yeah, right, Jimmy. It's just one of those iconic shots where he's just elevated. And the way, and it's, to me, it's iconic because he gets up. First of all, it's a turnaround, which is hard on that ankle, like you're talking about, and based on where he was coming from. And he gets so high up in the air, he's able to elevate in a way that we just haven't seen over the last couple of games. I don't know what happened to his body. I don't know if he made a deal with the devil. I don't know what happened, but he was there,
Whatever
man.
he did worked.
Whatever he did worked. So to answer your question, all right. So I'll Jimmy Butler's stats. Game 6, facing elimination, down 3-2 in Boston. 47 points on 16 of 29 shooting, 4 of 8 on threes, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 4 steals. That's tied for the third most points in a road elimination game in the history of the NBA.
Huh.
He's scored or assisted on 68 points, the most in a conference finals elimination game in the history of the NBA. All right? The 15 points he scored against Marcus Smart as his primary defender on Friday. Tied for the most in a playoff game against Marcus Smart. Your defensive player of the year, the NBA, Jimmy Butler ate him up. Okay? So just a few stats there, just to put Jimmy's night into context a little bit more. All right, so where does this rank? This has a real case, David, to be the greatest performance in Miami Heat playoff history. In Miami Heat playoff history, a franchise with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, multiple titles, okay? I think this, to me, and I'm not the first one to make this comparison, the closest thing you could compare this to is Game 6, Celtics, Eastern Conference Finals, 2012, LeBron James, the look, 45 points, 19 of 26 shooting, 15 rebounds, 5 assists. That's the closest thing. I have a few other ones, though, also, that are on the short list, all right? 2013, Game 7 against the Spurs. We always talk about Ray Allen's Game 6 shot, but LeBron in Game 7 of the 2013 Finals, masterclass. 37 points on 23 shots. He made 5 threes in that game, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, a couple of steals. He was awesome. Best player on the court by far in that, obviously, pivotal Game 7. The other one that comes to mind, the 2010 first round, Game 4 against the Celtics. Heat down 3-0 in the series. Dwayne Wade, 46 points on 24 shots, made 5 threes in that game, also had 5 rebounds and 5 assists. Now, Miami ultimately lost in the next game and lost in the first round to Boston, but that was just a legendary, gritty, gutsy, elimination, got to win this. Dwayne Wade did it. I don't know how much it matters that they ended up losing the next game because just measuring this individual performance. And then the last one, 2006, Game 5 against the Mavericks. Series tied 2-2. Dwayne Wade, 43 points on 11 of 28 shooting, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and most importantly, 25 free throw attempts in that game. Absolutely gutting out that win for Miami and ultimately taking momentum or further taking momentum in winning that series. So I think Jimmy Butler's right there. I don't know where it ranks off the high of the fumes of that incredible win. David, I'm ready to anoint it number 1. We talked about the stats. I mean, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing what he did. 47 points. I mean, we're talking about 45 from LeBron, and I think that to me was the bar, right? Game 6, Celtics down 3-2, gotta win it. LeBron 45 points on 26 shots. This one by Jimmy is right there. That was the bar. I think Jimmy just set the new bar a little bit higher.
It's hard to argue, and it just almost feels like a disservice one side or the other. Like either you're discrediting those games of the past, which were all phenomenal, or you're discrediting Jimmy's by not ranking it as highly or as a lot of people would want. And we're all kind of prisoners at this moment. And why not? It was exhilarating to see Jimmy, and that's what the context is for me, is to see the Jimmy of the past 2.5 games, where he's been obviously bothered by injury, where he missed that second half of Game 3, and he just looked like a shell of himself after having been so dominant the whole performance, the whole playoffs long, the whole postseason. He was a force of nature, brought down to earth over the last couple games by injury, by the Celtics, by whatever have you. And then for him to rise to the challenge of an elimination game in Boston, to be able to shoot the 3, 4 of 8 for a shooter that has struggled from behind the arc, to be able to do everything, to get to the line, to hit those turnaround jumpers, to get to the rim at ease, to be able to
jumping the passing lanes in a way we haven't seen recently,
making plays for others, carrying this team with Kyle Lowry still not 100%, with undrafted Max Strus having to be your top scorer, with Bam doing everything he could defensively. I mean, just so many different aspects of this game.
The context matters.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And so when you compare this one, everything you're saying is so right. And then you've also got Draymond Green on TV being like, all right, can't wait to see the Celtics in the finals. And that really pissed off the Heat. That really pissed him off. You could tell, like Haslam at the end of the game, going up to Mark Jackson on the broadcast and saying, like, tell Draymond Green we have a message for him. Tell him thank you. Tell him thank you. That's a great Udonis Haslem moment as well. The context all matters, and when you compare it to, like, what the Heat were dead in the water, right? People just writing them off, me included, just writing them off. And look, I don't blame them. I don't blame anybody. I don't blame myself for writing them off. I don't think I was wrong. Jimmy Butler, the way he looked, clearly the Heat were broken.
I don't think anybody expected this kind of a bounce back from Jimmy.
Right. And so that's the context that adds to Jimmy's greatness is where did this come from? Right. It comes from greatness. That's all. That's the answer. I don't know where I don't know where else.
You made a very good point all series long that Butler's role was to at least hang within the rarefied air of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to be the top scorer, if not be the top scorer on a game-to-game basis. He's done it for the early part of the series, hasn't done it over the last couple of games, and so that's been all the difference for Miami. Last night on Friday, he was the dominant scorer. Yeah. He was the trendsetter. He was the one who was setting the bar at an all-time high, and Boston just couldn't keep up.
Tatum had a great game. 30 points on 9 to 12 shooting, got to the line, had a bunch of rebounds, assists, playmaking, steals. Tatum had a great game. He did have 7 turnovers, but he had a great game scoring-wise. Like 30 points is nothing to sneeze at. Jimmy had 47. Jimmy had 47. So, all right, I don't know if we want to settle the argument. I don't even know if it's worth it. But Jimmy versus LeBron, you don't even want to? Okay.
No, because it takes away. Like LeBron in the moment was great. We weren't recording at that point in time, but it was just such a great moment, such a great game. Jimmy,
the big three, like the whole experiment on the line, like that was the stakes there in terms of the context. Yeah,
a lot going on.
LeBron's legacy, everything.
To me, I have a picture behind me here that a lot of people probably noticed from artist Ryan Simpson. And the reason why I wanted to get it, actually, I really went out of my way, even reached out to him to see if I could get a copy of it because it's sold out. It's not available anymore. Because what I saw in the Orlando bubble, specifically from Jimmy in the NBA Finals, was to me as inspiring as it gets. After being in the media for as long as I have, for covering this team and seeing them through ups and downs and everything else in between, like you don't really get those moments of inspiration very much. But what Jimmy did in the NBA Finals, and maybe again, that was the context, the bubble, the difficulties in the world around us, everything that we're going through, not too far from what we've experienced this week. And a lot has been going on around the country, around the world that we're still kind of just trying to wrap our minds around. And then we lose ourselves in the game. We lose ourselves in the moment. That's what Jimmy provided, an escape, just a chance to go, holy cow, like I've never seen anything like this. And it was a transcendent performance from him. So I don't necessarily want to say it was the greatest in franchise history, but it's certainly up there and well-deserving and just transformative. And to me, part of also the bigger picture too was Miami's constant response, like throughout the game with Boston playing a really good game for the most part. And I know Celtics fans will criticize turnovers or why Tatum only took X number of shots or why Marcus Smart took too many shots and things of that sort. I don't think that really matters. I think, from this side of the equation, Boston played a really good game. Miami also played a really good game and a much better game. But Miami just seemed to find a way to respond. When Boston was up or threatening, they pushed away again. They were able to reestablish a lead. They got another bucket from not necessarily even Jimmy, from PJ or Max or somebody else. Victor Oladipo even stepped on occasion. Everybody found a way
to big charge at the end, Victor. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That was a huge pivotal moment.
Spoelstra and Max Strus hitting big shots at the end too.
Yes.
Missed 19 straight threes and then hit a big one. Started hitting big ones in the second half. Spoelstra routine, like just constantly saying, we live for these moments. This is for competitors only. Like all the Spoisms, you name them. Like he emptied the arsenal, right? Like they were all out there at some point over these last couple of days. Yeah. And look, the one thing that he did say, which I thought was actually a pretty good message, and I thought historically accurate. To win a championship, you really have to get pushed to the limit. And the Heat were clearly pushed to the limit. This doesn't mean that they're going to win the championship. It doesn't even mean that they're going to win Game 7 in Miami. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that they won Game 6, and Jimmy Butler put up an all-timer performance. And the other one, by the way, that we didn't mention was Jimmy Butler's own 40-point triple-double in Game 3 in the finals. That's up there with all the all-time Heat great performances in the playoffs, too. This one, I think, surpasses that, right? And, it takes... I think it also just takes greatness, and I don't mean it. I don't mean to be cliche or oversimplified or whatever, but like you need great moments to win a championship. You need them, and it does. Like It doesn't mean that the Warriors won't get that. It doesn't mean that the Celtics won't get that. But we just saw Miami get that with Jimmy Butler. That's what we just witnessed, was greatness. It doesn't promise anything going forward, but we will always, to the point, we'll always remember that performance. That is something that will be remembered in Heat franchise history. That is something that deserves its own spot in Championship Alley at some point, regardless of the outcome of the rest of this season. That was an all-timer. That was an all-timer.
Is his hunched over in the Orlando bubble in the Championship Alley? It should be, right? It has to be.
I don't know if it is. If it's not, it will be. We can go scan that next time we're there.
Yeah, I don't know if I paid attention, to be honest with you. But it's such an iconic moment. And yesterday, I mean, maybe not necessarily in that same scale in terms of the iconic moment, but you pointed out that flashbulb moment. And what I really loved on the rewatch today was the dead silence from the Boston Celtics crowd. One fan in particular throwing his hands up to his head and then collapsing on the scorer's table in front of him, like just throwing his arms and head down, face first, in shock at that turnaround jumper from Jimmy Butler. And then the whole crowd just going, what the hell did I just fucking witness? Like they were in shock. They just hadn't
when
seen
you
that,
drain the life of a fan base on the road.
Yep.
Not a lot of players can do that.
Well, we'll talk about some of the other players that stepped up in the next segment, and then we'll look ahead to Game 7 because there will be a Game 7 thanks to Jimmy Butler. You're listening to Locked On Heat.
All right, back here with Locked On Heat. Thank you so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. For your next listen, go check out the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast with your host, Rafael Barlow. Takes you through everything you need to know about the upcoming NBA draft, including scouting reports, trades, big boards, everything that you need to know going into that. David, we got that winning feeling up in here. It is time for some credit cookies, baby. What kind of cookies are we giving out today?
You know, I was so excited. I completely forgot to even pick out a cookie.
But I got one. All right, so I'm staying at this hotel. Staying at this hotel in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And they gave us these cookies when we checked in. They're like these dark chocolate with a biscuit on the bottom. You know what I mean?
Sounds great.
They're delicious. I mean, they're absolutely delicious. So we're going to give out these. There's a name on them.
As delicious as a 47-point outing from Jimmy Butler?
Not quite that delicious. It says vegware on the, but I don't think that's what it's called. But we're going to call them vegware cookies. I don't know if that's just what the sticker brand is or the cookie brand is, but whatever. Vegware cookies is what we're doing. Little shortbread biscuit cookies. I want to give Jimmy Butler gets his own bakery. All right, like he gets his own bakery.
Unfair.
Right?
That's unfair.
All right, so
let's focus on everybody else. Like, let's assume Jimmy gets like 10 unlimited, like some kind of like video game where he just gets like unlimited points or cookies or whatever. Like that's
like it doesn't Super Mario when you go up and then you jump on and hit the block and then it's like one of those blocks that just keep giving you coins instead of like just the one coin. That's what Jimmy Butler has, but with cookies, you get it. All right, so that's Jimmy. So Jimmy Butler off the board because he's enjoying his cookies and resting his hamstring, and they're very good cookies. Whatever cookies Jimmy Butler wants, he has them, and he has all of them for the rest of his life. He's got them, lifetime supply. All right, everybody else, Kyle Lowry. Let's start here. Yeah. Kyle Lowry was as big of a reason as people thought the Heat were dead as anything. All right, he looked broken. This hamstring was clearly bothering him, even though he was back. He could not make a shot. He made one shot in the last 2 games, right?
Yeah.
He was out of this, and then comes back tonight, shows up last night to the game 3.5 hours early to work that hamstring out, get loose, and get ready for this game 6. He ends up scoring 18 points on 5 of 14 shooting, makes 4 3-pointers, has 10 assists. That was the Kyle Lowry that the Heat needed. That was the Kyle Lowry that the Heat expected when they signed him, or they traded for him over the offseason, signed and traded for him over the offseason. That's why they did that, is for these moments. The hit-ahead passes, David. Right. They were back. The hit-ahead passes were back. He was doing all of this stuff. Defensively, he was great. He set the tone, I thought, for Miami's offense early on because the pace was there. And I think that was really important to Miami's game. Jimmy Butler obviously was the most important thing. But I really like the way that Miami – I like the pace that they played with all night. Like, that's what we're talking about. Hey, Go, go, go. Attack the Celtics defense. Don't let them get set. Get them on their heels.
Right.
Make them backpedal. Get to the basket. Get to the rim. Put the pressure on them early in the shot clock. And I think thanks to Kyle Lowry, they did that. So he's getting, I don't know, four of these Vegware cookie things.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair because again, the 10 assists were about him setting everything else up for his teammates and getting them into the right spot, setting Jimmy up, recognizing Jimmy's got this. Let him go to work. Let me do what I can to put him in that position to succeed. Because when Jimmy's at another level, all you have to do is get out of the way and at the very least try and help out to whatever capacity you can. And I think that was Kyle recognizing that and saying, look, I've played with some really great players over the course of my NBA career. Jimmy's right up there. That performance was as great as I've ever seen. I think that's fair. And at the same time, like he was attacking the basket, whether the basket fell or not, he was getting to the line, 4 of 4 from the free throw line, 5 of 14 from the field. Not great, but 4 of 9 from 3-point range. Every one of those huge, none bigger than that, the 4.5 minute mark when he tied the game up after Derek White took the lead. And Boston, again, everything in their favor. I think that was the start, if I'm not mistaken, of a 10-2 Miami run for them to kind of push away yet again, pull away from the Celtics in order to have that lead. A lot of good calls in Miami's favor. I don't care. At the same time, Miami got the benefit of the whistle. They took advantage. They put themselves in a position to succeed. And because of Kyle, I think they really got to that point. I think it was a huge game from him, really, really stepping up and overcoming injury to be a huge contributor on the night.
Max Strus made 3 threes. We had the stat earlier. He missed 19 straight threes in this series, then comes back, makes 3 3-pointers in the second half. They were huge. He had that really, really big one late, and then he got so hyped that he loses his mouth guard. It ends up on the floor. He picks it up and puts it right back in his mouth. It might have been the grossest thing I've ever seen on an NBA broadcast. It was so disgusting.
Visceral was a term I'm using.
Visceral. It was primal, wasn't it? It was like I'm gonna give
rivulets of drool all over. Like it was excessive. Like I didn't need to see that.
They shouldn't have shown it. Like if you're gonna be like touchy about showing legs breaking in half on a broadcast, as you should, then you should not have put Max Strus's slobber in slow motion. Okay, I understand it was a great moment and we all liked it. I threw up in my mouth. Okay. That was disgusting. It was disgusting. I never want to see it again. The pictures are out there online. I don't want to see it. It was gross. Credit to Max Strus.
Really? Oh my!
I did not. It was incredible. I just don't want to see it anymore. It's so disgusting to me.
I wonder if like the producer is like, oh, that was an emotional moment after a big shot. Let's cut back to that, and then afterwards they show it in replay and like, oh, is that like a river of drool coming from out of his mouth? They had to have known, right? Like, I don't know why they would do this. I don't know.
He's getting 2 of these cookies, and it's not enough, but we have to, leave some for everybody else. But he's getting 2 of them.
11 points in the third quarter from him. Like Miami holding on to a 2-point lead and doing everything they can to keep the Celtics at bay, and then to have that big third quarter to help push that lead up to 7. They needed every one of those points. Max comes through, played some really solid defense. Like the thing is with Max, maybe not quite to the same level of Duncan. It's like, you're getting a lot of good. You also get a lot of bad. Still a lot of fouls, still a lot of out of position plays and things of that sort. But overall, he works hard. And I think that means the world to Eric Spoelstra and that coaching staff, is that he continues to try and outwork his opponent and just force something, make something happen. He got 1 block. I'm sorry, no, he didn't have a 1 block. That was Kyle Lowry actually had the block. But anyway, I think just Strus had a really good game.
Well, go ahead.
No, just trying to challenge Tatum and Brown and whoever he was matched up on. Guarding Horford at some points along the perimeter.
He did a really good job. There's obviously moments where the size and whatever limitations he has is a problem, but he tries so hard defensively. He's gotten so much better at moving laterally over the course of this season. He's awesome, and one of the reasons I think he was so excited and wanted to drool all over the parquet floor so badly was because he was playing so poorly, and he knew that they needed him. Between Max and Kyle, 7 3-pointers between the 2 of them. That is as much a reason why the Heat were in this game, right? Like they provided a platform for Jimmy Butler to be great, and maybe it goes the other way too. Maybe Jimmy's greatness inspired them, and something like that just pervades the entire lineup. But They needed the
6
threes.
cookies
Like that was
down.
the stat, right? Like that was
Yep,
the stat for the last 2 games, was that those guys weren't making shots. Miami's backcourt
exactly.
had made 1 shot in 2 games. They both stepped up in a really meaningful, big way. The other guy was PJ Tucker. First of all, he was 2 of 2 from 3-point
Yep.
range after kind of struggling from distance the last few games. Only
Hit a
took 4
shot early
shots,
on. Yeah.
5 rebounds, an assist, 2 steals. I don't care about the box score. I don't. He was awesome. I just remember watching that game and be like, this dude is freaking awesome. First of all, his defense was incredible. It was as good as it has been all
Oh,
series long, I thought, right? I'm going to give him 2 of these
unbelievable.
cookies.
Yeah.
It's not enough, but that's what he's going to get. 2 of these cookies. Again, the box score stuff does not matter. You watch that game, PJ Tucker's presence, his fingerprints it's all over that game. It's all over that game.
2 steals from him, and there was one late in that run when Miami was doing it. And I can't remember who the initial defender. I want to say it was Strus. Strus on Tatum, and Tatum kind of spins away, and PJ reads it perfectly. He knows exactly what Tatum's going to do. He knows he's going to spin left away from the initial defender, Strus or whoever it was, and he anticipates it, gets his hands on there, timing it perfectly to poke the ball away. Absolutely a backbreaker. Like you can see Tatum just kind of defeated, deflated, not like he's done all season or all series long where he's kind of crying for a foul or complaining or anything like that. He recognized it. He was like, damn, I just got picked clean and there's no way around it. And PJ's able to initiate a fast break there. Miami winds up capitalizing on the other end. Huge plays from him, big plays all night. Couple of 3-pointers again in key moments early on to help set the pace early, and then later on when you need every point that you can possibly get. Huge game from him. Miami is so lucky to have PJ Tucker on the roster.
2 more cookies left. I'm gonna split them. 1 to Victor Oladipo, 1 to Bam Adebayo. Vic's getting it just for the. It wasn't even a great Victor Oladipo game.
No,
but Spoelstra shortened the rotation to basically 8 guys. Duncan Robinson playing 5 minutes early, not really part of the thing in the second half. And so Spo really did end up going just to an 8-man rotation. Vic played the most minutes off the bench, and another. By the way, no Tyler Hero again tonight or last night, but Vic kind of stepping up into that 6-man role. 22 minutes for him. Only took 6 shots, which I kind of liked. You know, with Jimmy Butler doing everything that he was doing, and Strus and Lowry feeling it. I like that Oladipo didn't have to freelance as much. That's a good sign. It's kind of an interesting bellwether for this team. Is how many shots is Oladipo putting up? It's almost like the fewer shots he does, the better it looks like everybody else is playing, because he kind of is like, without Hero, that do-it-yourself creator that they need sometimes when they're desperate. But anyway, he's getting a cookie for the charge that he took at the end that we talked about earlier. That's why he's getting that cookie. And then I'm giving one to Bam. I'm giving one to Bam. All right, only 6 shots, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. He did have 4 turnovers in the game. I know it wasn't the greatest Bam game offensively, and I know that people want so much more from him offensively. But you know what? With Lowry feeling it, with Jimmy obviously doing what he was doing, this was the game that they needed from Bam Adebayo. He was a team high plus 12 plus minus on the night. Okay, his plus minus was better than even Jimmy's, and the plus minus stuff can be misleading. All right, I'm not relying on that, and that's not why I'm giving him the cookie. His defense was great, and he was running the floor with pace. He was as much of a reason why Miami was able to step up defensively as PJ Tucker or anybody else that we're talking about. This was a night that they needed from Bam Adebayo. When Jimmy Butler was doing that, they did not need aggressive Bam. They needed this version of Bam, holding it down in the paint, holding it down defensively, switching out. It's all the things that we talk about Bam all the time. There's not a moment to me, maybe you have one that really stands out, but he was just 41 minutes, all 41 minutes, sustained great defense the entire game for him.
Yeah, not a key moment, not a particular moment there, but just steadying, providing a boost, just doing everything he possibly could to help win. Like, I mean, again, so many people have kind of obsessed over the lack of production on the scoring end and things of that sort. And I know it's easy to get caught up on that. And I admitted to you via text, it was the first game, I think, all series long where I was wondering why he wasn't just a tad more aggressive in certain spots, like when he was being guarded by a smaller player. At the same time, everything else he was doing was phenomenal. And I think that's what we kind of overlook in this conversation about why he doesn't score more, is that you're overlooking all the other aspects. And yes, you can weigh in the contract if you want to. None of that matters, really. Ultimately, he's got the contract already. He's doing what he can. Miami's here, and they wouldn't be here without Bam Adebayo. And I think that's fair to say. Yep. And I think that's also appreciative of what he can do and recognizing that there are certain limitations in his game. And guess what? He's also 24 years old. He's only just started. He's really been so good for so long that we kind of overlooked the fact that he's just kind of really just kicking off his career, and there's a lot of years left for him to continue to develop. So we'll see how he gets there, and he'll probably be wearing a Heat uniform the whole time. But we'll look ahead to Game 7 in the next segment because, well, you know what? There is a Game 7. How does Miami respond? Do they get another historic performance from Jimmy? Do they need one? Can they finally take that leap and get past the Celtics and move on into the NBA Finals? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Heat. Just a reminder, you can always reach us via email at lockedonheat@gmail.com or via Twitter using the hashtag AskLOHeat. Be sure to please subscribe to the show and leave a review. So many people chiming in, so many people responding on this historic night. Just a great game, great buzz, even though, you know, it wasn't at home. It was great to see everybody responding there. They had the FTX Arena. I don't know if it was sold out, but I'm sure there was probably a pretty big crowd there watching these things up on the Jumbotron. It would have been just exciting to see that vibe, that excitement as the crowd just responds to every big bucket. But we did get a question from longtime listener Steve Kolakidis. He asks about Tyler Hero and his chances of coming back in a Game 7. I wanted to pitch that to you because I was curious. You said in the previous episode that there was no chance Tyler suited up for Game 6. You were right, even though you were wrong about Miami's ability to steal a game in Boston. I'll leave it there. Having said that, do you think Tyler comes back in Game 7?
No.
What are the chances he does?
No, I don't think he does. I would be surprised. But then again, I didn't think that Jimmy Butler would find another knee, so I don't know. But this is a serious growing issue that Tyler is dealing with, and I would be surprised. But I'm not ruling it out, but I would be surprised if he plays Game 7 at this point. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see by Sunday night. We'll obviously have more information.
I have to agree with you. Just because if he was going to do it, I mean, unless he has another, miraculous recovery over the next couple of days or whatever, or at least now we're talking about a day. He's got till tomorrow night in order to find, some kind of replacement to make the same call to whatever Faustian entity Jimmy Butler contacted in order to get a new knee, etc. But if he was going to respond, if he was going to play and say, you know what, my team needs me, I need to be able to be out there, I need to be able to push through it. That was an elimination game. Like, he would have been out there for that if he could play. The reality is that he can't play because he's limited by injury, and that's fine. I mean, the players get hurt. It's been a tough, couple seasons.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's mad at Tyler for it. Yeah, I mean,
some people complain. I saw some people call him Sherman soft. Yeah,
whatever, dude. Like, you go out there and run with a groin injury.
Right.
It sucks. Yeah. That injury sucks. Okay, that injury really sucks. So. What can we expect from this Game 7? Yeah, let's just put this Game 7 again in context. This is reminiscent to me of the 2013 Game 7 NBA Finals, right? Ray Allen hits that shot, flashbulb moment, an all-time moment in NBA history, right? The greatest shot in NBA Finals history. And you kind of are riding the high of that, and then you kind of have to remember, we have another game that we have to play. Yeah. And the Spurs are a really good team.
Right.
A lot of people consider the Spurs the better team in this series, and we have to go beat them again. All right. So this is going to be hard. And this is, to me, that same thing. Like, the Heat have to figure out a way to, bottle this momentum and use it to their strength and not allow there to be a letdown in Game 7. And that's hard because there's real emotions here.
Yeah. Here's a big question. Like, a lot of people were saying, us included, one of the biggest factors in Boston's favor, it was Robert Williams. Did Miami solve how to attack Robert Williams? Is it just a balance of knowing when to pick your spots when you're attacking the basket, and of course being able to hit 43% of your 3-point shots, because that's certainly a big factor. I mean, I think it's a combination of both of those things, right? Like Williams played a really solid game. Like, there's just no denying that he's a great defender. At the same time, Miami also was aggressive. They attacked. I liked a lot of what Jimmy, Kyle, those two in particular, it seemed like they understood the timing. Maybe they've made those kind of in-series adjustments where they recognize, I can drive to the hoop, and it doesn't just have to be explosive. It has to be purposeful. I have to understand when there's an initial defender there, when they're going to try and get up in the air, and then be able to use that to get the second bounce off, or maybe use a little up fake or something like that. Like, I saw a number of shots where they just kind of held their own, came to a quick stop, and then said, you know what, the initial defender jumped up in the air. They got him to jump, and they, kind of, just balanced a little bit and said, okay, now as well I'll take the shot without Williams there occupying that space or capable of altering my shot. So I think they made some adjustments. Having said that, again, yeah, you got to hit your outside shots. It's just the reality of the NBA.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I don't think that they made X's and O's adjustments necessarily.
Right.
They didn't even really make lineup adjustments, right? You and I were talking about potential lineup adjustments that they could do. Throw a curveball, put Duncan Robinson and Strus in there, just get as much 3-point shooting on the floor to get Robert Williams out of the paint. And Spo just said, I'm not doing any of that. And by the way, he gets some credit cookies too. We have left. He can have the rest of mine. He gets the rest of mine.
How happy were you? Sorry to interrupt. How happy were you when he issued that reluctant challenge towards the end of the game? Like it was just like it was pulling teeth. Like, I've got to use that challenge, and
he's the worst ever at challenges. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't remember the last time he won a challenge. He's so bad at them.
The one challenge blemish on his resume. Yeah, the one challenge Miami won, it wasn't even because of Spo. It was just a matter of Victor Oladipo drawing that charge because he was outside the restricted area.
Right.
It was something that referees.
And there were that was my initial take was, oh my God, are they going to be able to review this? Because it wasn't really clear if they'd be able to review it right away because I don't really know the rules that well about that stuff. But I was like, oh wow, it would have been nice to have that challenge.
They could review it. I think the broadcast explained it. They can review it to determine whether the player was inside or outside the restricted area. So that's what they wound up doing. And yes, he was outside the area. They could say, he was firmly planted there. I know a lot of people will say, oh, it was a BS call or whatever. No, I think it was a good call. I really do think that
it was the right call. I think they got to get rid of that, like being able to slide under a guy. Yes. He wasn't already in the air, but he was gathering and he was almost in air. And but he did it within the rules and he got the charge, and that's what it was. And I think that happened earlier to somebody on Miami. I can't remember who drew the charge, but it was literally like the guy. Was it Kyle was already in the air or something, and then somebody slid under him. Whatever, they got to get rid of that. It's dangerous. They got to get rid of it. But whatever, it worked. So, the point with Spo, he kept his rotations and he kept all the same. I think it was really very much the same sort of game plan after Game 5. Spo said repeatedly, the shots we got were in our wheelhouse. The shots we got were in our wheelhouse. And he kept repeating that. And you look at how they shot in that game, and you're like, I don't know what wheelhouse this is, but I don't want any part of it. Like, I don't think you should be in that wheelhouse, all right? Yeah. I don't even really know what a wheelhouse is. Is that like a barnyard thing? Stuff like where tractors go?
This is riveting. Yeah, I'm not familiar.
This is the point of the show where we get it. Anyway, if you know what a wheelhouse is, leave it in the YouTube comments. But Spo clearly did believe that because they just did the same thing. I think the biggest adjustment was just the pace of the play, the stuff you were talking about before, the purposefulness to their drives, to their kicks, all that kind of stuff. You're absolutely right. There was more of a pace, like we were talking about with Lowry out there. Obviously, making 40+% of your threes is really helpful. That's the biggest adjustment, is they just made shots and Jimmy Butler scored 47 points and got healthy. The biggest adjustment was that Jimmy Butler looked great and all of a sudden Miami started making shots. That is, if we're not talk adjustments, like we always say, the best adjustment you can make is play better. Okay, and the Heat did.
Yeah.
But there wasn't anything drastic here, and that shows a level of confidence in the game plan that Spoelstra and that coaching staff put together. Right. I would expect that to probably be the game plan in Game 7.
Yeah. They'll stick to it, right? They'll stick to what they do best. Do they need another historic performance from Jimmy in order to put Boston away? I think that's a tough question to answer because obviously you'd like to have it, but you don't also want to over-rely on it. Like, even as great as Jimmy was, you don't win that game without Strus, Lowry, PJ stepping up and finding ways to contribute in some ways offensively. Like, you want to be able to have that big game. And I don't know. I legitimately have questions about whether or not Jimmy can continue to do this. Between the ankle, between the knee, between the fact that he played a whole second half, like, that's a hell of a level of production. That's a lot of minutes to be playing. And I wonder whether or not he's going to be able to bounce back on short rest after traveling back to Miami. Not an excuse. Again, I know a lot of people say that.
No, but it's a good point, though. It's like, was this the aberration? Was this the last gasp that Jimmy Butler had? Was this the rest of the greatness poured into Game 6 that he had left? Right. Or is he healthy now? Is this knee not as much of an issue as it was over the last 2.5 games? Like, I don't know that anybody knows that, and nobody will know that until the ball tips Sunday night. That's the main question. Does Jimmy Butler need to have an historic performance? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I will say, though, I think if you're in a Miami Heat uniform and you played next to Jimmy Butler on Friday night, and you saw that performance, you have to be inspired. You have to be able to
Yes.
rise to the occasion. You said, Jimmy got us this opportunity. I'm not going to let him down. And that's Bam, that's PJ, that's everybody on that roster. If you're out there on Sunday night playing and Jimmy doesn't have it going for whatever reason, because he's hurt, because it's tiring, because he did so much in game 6, it's up to everybody else to step up. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing, is how everybody else rises to that same challenge, because Jimmy met it. He exceeded our expectations in game 6. He got you this opportunity. Now it's to everybody else to compliment him and do what you're supposed to. You're wearing a Heat uniform. You want to be able to go on to the NBA Finals. Do your job. Do your job. That was a motto before game 6. Guess what? Jimmy did his job. He's freaking employee of the goddamn month. That's for sure. Now everybody else has to step up. So
and they did in game 6. They did. Kyle, Max, PJ, they like those guys did step up, and you have to believe that Jimmy inspiring them was a big part of that. I don't know that they need another historic 47-point performance from Jimmy Butler. They do need healthy Jimmy Butler, point blank. They need healthy Jimmy Butler. They need that knee that showed up in game 6. They need that knee to show up in game 7. I don't know how many points it'll take. I have no idea. This series has still been really weird. We got our first good game of the series last night. But if this is a trend and not an aberration in terms of Jimmy's health, then the Heat not only have a chance to win game 7, they have a chance to win the whole thing. That's how good Jimmy has been. That's how important Jimmy has been to the Heat and to these NBA playoffs. He's been the best player. Okay, he just snatched back the belt of best player in the postseason with last night's win, right? With last night's performance, he's like, all right, nope, I'm still the best one. I'm still the best one left here. And so that's the version of Jimmy that they'll need.
On the flip side of things, do you think Brown's struggling to some degree, fouling out, et cetera? Do you think he looks at game 7 as another bounce back? And you have to take into consideration, Boston has been able to win there. I know not with the same pressure of game 7. They won game 7 against a very good Milwaukee team, but they were in Boston. Game 6, Friday night's game 6 against Miami was their equivalent of game 7. And, facing with the opportunity to be able to advance, they couldn't get it done. I won't say they choked the game away or anything like that, because that's taking credit away from Miami and also taking credit away from Boston, who played a really solid game overall.
Played a great game.
Now, can they go into game 7 in Miami and respond back? I wonder how
can they? Absolutely. They haven't lost consecutive games in these entire playoffs, David. This is a really resilient Celtics team. It's a really resilient Celtics team. We know that they're going to bounce back. They have a great player in their own right in Jason Tatum on the other end. Jaylen Brown is capable of having huge moments. That's a great defense. And if, there's a whole lot of variables going on, right? Like if Miami's not making shots from the outside and all these things, whatever, if Jimmy's knee this, if all these, Kyle Lowry's hamstring here, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do think that, or I certainly hope that we have another game like we had Friday night, because that was an incredible game. Obviously better for the Heat that they won. Extend this series to game 7. Of course.
Let's get that same outcome.
Of course. One last thing before we sign off here.
All right.
I watched the game in a bar in New York.
Oh, yeah.
I will say this. We took over that bar. There was a lot of people in Miami. We actually ended up finding people at the bar who were also from Brickell. Me and my fiance went to the bar. And they are also from Brickell, where we live. And they just happened to be there watching the Heat game. There was a bunch of people there that just ended up rooting for the Heat because because they're winning, because of Jimmy Butler, whatever. But there was 2 distinct sides to this bar. What was the bar called? The Mercury Bar or something near Times Square, I believe, is where we were, or near Broadway. One half of the bar was all rooting for the Heat. The other half of the bar, I should say half, about a quarter of the bar in the back, were Boston fans. Boston fans were really loud for a little while there. And I didn't hear them as much at the end. And then we got the bar, and this is why I wanted to shout out Mercury Bar. They played Pepas at the end for everybody. Nice. We asked them to play Pepas. They played Pepas. We got a New York Pepas. New York, Manhattan. Hey, the Knicks haven't been good in a really long time. All right? I think Manhattan is Heat country now. That's what I'm trying to say.
Nice.
We permeated. We took over. That was our bar for the night. We got Pepas in New York. It was a good feeling. Just wanted to shout out the bar for doing that.
Absolutely. Shout out to the Mercury Bar for keeping it 100.
Hopefully that's the name of the bar. I don't.
Well, yeah,
That's not
we don't
even
want to
in the
shout out the
movie.
wrong part. Don't take credit, whoever you were. Anyway, thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. We'll be there on on Sunday's Game 7. You'll probably be at that same bar on Sunday night. I'll be
We'll see.
recapping the game. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens. I'm not sure if we can cover that game live and in person, but either way, it's going to be a phenomenal performance. We will, however, have a recap immediately after that game.
Yes.
One way or the other. It's going to be tough if Miami does not find a way to win. I don't want to say they lose. If they don't find a way to win, it's going to be tough to muster. But if they do win, it'll be an epic show. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Make sure to make your second listen of the day Locked On NBA for the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the NBA Finals. Locked On experts take you deep inside the playoffs with insight and analysis affecting all 30 teams. I'm David Ramil signing out for now. Thanks so much for taking time from your New York trip to join us, Wes.
Wrap it up, B.
Yeah.